Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum class. I hope you all would be doing great. So today we are here with another video that is too much important for all of you. We are going to talk about Aisha Jalal's self and sovereignty, and we will discuss chapter number 10, which is an epilogue, and the title is An Unhealing Wound: Paradoxes of Muslim Identity, Sovereignty and Citizenship. Before discussing the chapter, we will see what does mean by self. Self is a person's essential being that distinguishes them from others. Yourself is your essence of who you are, deep down your identity. Okay, the confidence in yourself make you a stronger individual. अच्छा जी, इस डेफिनेशन को देखें तो हमें पता लगता है व्हाट इज सेल्फ. सेल्फ इज योर being, who you are, from where you belong, what are your qualities, what are your characteristics, what is your character. All these things are your fall under the category of yourself that makes you an individual person. Okay, that makes you a unique person or unique individual. Next is, what is sovereignty? It's a supreme power and authority, the authority of a state to govern itself or another state. Sovereignty क्या होती है कि आपकी हाकमियत, यानी कि एक स्टेट जो है वो कैसे रूल करती है अपने अपने अपनी पॉपुलेशन पे, अपनी नेशन पे और दूसरी पे भी. बिकॉज इफ़ यू आर नॉट इंडिपेंडेंट यू आर नॉट गोइंग टू रूल एनी वन. सो बिफोर हैविंग अ इंडिपेंडेंट पोजिशन यू मस्ट हैव sovereignty. There are four essential features for a state. State is made up of four essential things, which are population, territory, sovereignty, and government. So sovereignty is one of the part of four essential elements of a state. If a state is not having power, if a state is not having authority, then how it will give rights to its citizens. Okay, so हमने अब दो definitions तो देखी हैं, एक self है and sovereignty है. We will relate these two aspects, these two definitions or these two ideas with the partition of 1947, that country of Pakistan is having sovereignty. आपने ये भी देखना है कि हम पूरी एनालिसिस में देखेंगे कि आपको नज़र आता है कि हम सेल्फ जो है वो गेन कर चुके हैं, हमें पता है हु वी आर, फ्रॉम वेयर वी बिलोंग, बट और इंडिपेंडेंट हैं हम, और हमने सोवरेनिटी देखनी कि हमारे स्टेट में ये एलिमेंट है, वो उसके पास इतनी अथॉरिटी और पावर है. ठीक है, और आयशा जलाल जो हैं वो इन दोनों कंसेप्ट्स को लेके बात करती हैं 1947 की पार्टीशन पे, और सेल्फ एंड सॉवरेनिटी इनकी बुक है जिसका हम चैप्टर नंबर 10 करेंगे, एपिलॉग. एपिलॉग क्या होता है, सिटीजनशिप क्या है, व्हाट डज मीन बाय सॉवरेनिटी, ये सारी चीज़ें तो हम दो चीज़ें तो हम देख चुके हैं. वी हैव सीन व्हाट इज सेल्फ, वी हैव सीन व्हाट इज सॉवरेनिटी. नाउ वी सी व्हाट इज एन एपिलॉग. A section of a speech at the end of a book that serves as a comment or a conclusion to what has happened. Epilogue is a final comment, a final judgment, or final result of something. Okay, so Aisha Jalal's book Self and Sovereignty is giving a final comment on the partition by giving the definition of citizenship, sovereignty, and Muslim identity. Okay, citizenship is a position of a status of a being, a citizen of a particular state. That how, if you are a citizen of Pakistan, you have the right to live there, live here, or you can enjoy the rights in this society, in this very country. Okay. What is paradox? A statement that is seemingly contradictory or opposed to common sense and yet is perhaps true. Although paradoxical statements are sometimes makes you confused at whether it is true or not, because the words are in contradiction to itself. When we say less is more, so our intellectualism says that how less can be more. But if we understand the philosophy that less is more, when you will have less things, you will be more contented. When you get more and more and more, you get that greed of getting more and more and more. Okay. So that statement is so philosophical, less is more. It is a paradoxical statement. We will now see according to Aisha Jalal's point of view, that and how Muslim identities have become a paradoxical identities. Okay. So her work starts, her chapter starts, not her work, her epilogue starts with Faiz Ahmed Faiz poetry that gives a comment on British colonization, that how the British has left the subcontinent, but they have a lasting impact on their mentality, on their psyche. Okay, so if you read this poem, you will come to know from the first line, to our homeland came a high-spirited beggar. Yeah, now you can see there is a beggar who is highly spirited. So how contradictory the terms are. Okay, it's like oxymoron. Two contradictory statements are there. A beggar cannot be high-spirited, but here it is referring the British army, it is referring the British people, the colonizers who came to subcontinents and they ruled over that area for more than 100 years. Although they have gone they came with the idea of enlightening. They came with the idea of making people envisioned or making people enlightened. But at the end, when they gone, they have taken the true identity of people. They have made them subjugated, suppressed, and snatched their true identity from them, because they are still under their influence. Or you can also see that in spite of getting the freedom, in spite of getting independence from these British slavery, we are still the slaves of these people. How? Because we are still following their culture, following their tradition, and still we love the person who speak English, and we have given extra attention to that language. If a person knows to speak English, he or she is the best one. Okay, she initiate her discussion that Faiz Ahmed Faiz wrote this poem, and after that she relates that Faiz Ahmed Faiz himself was born in Sialkot because he was the admirer of Iqbal. Born in the same city of Sialkot as the spiritual and identical founder of Pakistan, this was how Faiz Ahmed Faiz commemorated Iqbal's poetic legacy to post-colonial South Asia. अब फैज़ अहमद फैज़ इसमें क्या किया, उन्होंने इकबाल की पोइट्री, इकबाल को रेफर किया. Yet in August 1947, Faiz in his famous poem Subh Azadi or Freedom's Dawn made plain that this leprous daybreak, dawn night's franks have mangled, was not the long looked for break of day, for which he and his friend has set out in quest of the star's last halting place, or even an anarchist for the ship of heartache. फैज़ अहमद फैज़ की ही पोइट्री को, सुबह आज़ादी को बेस बनाते हुए आयशा जलाल अपना पॉइंट देती हैं कि देखिए फैज़ अहमद फैज़ itself is saying that this was not the day, this was the not the freedom's dawn that his friend were expecting, because they were expecting a good daybreak. Okay, not like full of bloodshed, full of brutality. Okay. Nor could it be seen as the realization of Iqbal's ideal Islamic state, or even his proposal for a Muslim state in northwestern India. अब एक कमेंट दे रही है आशा जलाल अगेन सुबह आज़ादी that Iqbal didn't wanted such kind of state where there was so much bloodshed, people have lost their property, their loved ones, their identities. She says कि इकबाल की ने जो रियलाइज़ किया था इस्लामिक स्टेट का एज अ थिंकर आइडिया दिया था, वो तो हमें नज़र ही नहीं आया. ठीक है, where to heed as equality, solidarity, and freedom inspired manifold action. None in the end could match the plentitude, timor, or lifting spirituality of Iqbal's poetry, or sustain the premises of his idealistic philosophy. वो कहती है कि जो कुछ भी हुआ है ना 1947 की पार्टीशन के बाद, तो कुछ भी वैसा नहीं है जैसा कि बताया गया था, जैसा सोचा गया था, जैसा कि विजन किया गया था. कि इकबाल ने आइडियलिस्टिक स्टेट की बात की थी. इकबाल ने कहा था कि वेयर मुस्लिम विल लिव विद इंडिपेंडेंस, और मुस्लिम विल हैविंग ऑल द राइट्स, और देयर नो वन वाज थिंकिंग ऑफ दिस ब्लडशेड और दिस ब्रूटैलिटी ऑफ दिस वायलेंस. ओके, और तौहीद की बेस पे वी गॉट दिस लैंड. Definitely you all people are aware of this fact that why we got this land, why this got our beloved Pakistan, because we were having the ideology of two nation theory, that we are different from Hindus, we cannot live together, where our traditions, our culture, our way of living is different from them. Or first of the most important foremost thing was that our religion was different from them, so that's why we demanded for a separate homeland. तो लेकिन जब 1947 की पार्टीशन हो गई है, द consequences and the aftermath of partition were not good, not according to the expectations. Okay, civilian space littered with profanities against fellow men and women, not to mention the aged and the young, was a shaky foundation on which to construct the sacred fortress of Muslim in South Asia. Now she is giving the very hardest comment on this partition, that हमने जो लैंड लिया है वो क्या हुआ है. सोवेरेनिटी तो वहाँ नहीं थी, वो हाकमियत वाली लैंड पे क्या है, प्रोफेनिटीज है, वल्गैरिटी हुई है, और सारा कुछ रेप किया गया हम उनके साथ, और जो कोई भी उम्र नहीं देखेगी, हर एक ने जो है उसको फेस किया है. और साउथ एशिया में इतनी शेकी फाउंडेशन रख दी गई कि उसको कभी भी गिराया जा सकता है. उस फाउंडेशन को मजबूत बनाना था, वो मजबूत नहीं बनी. वो इट्स आयशा जलाल्स कमेंट ऑन पार्टीशन ऑफ सब कॉन्टिनेंट into Pakistan and Hindustan. If the Muslim left behind in India felt the loneliness of separation, those who sought the comforts of citizenship in a Muslim nation state had to undergo excruciating pain and much loss of life and property to reach their adopted homeland. She says that if the Muslim across the border, the one who remained there, who was unable to come to the new nation state, they both of them suffer one way or the other in the same way. ठीक है, दोनों ने ही सेम अपनी अपनी जगह पे सफ़र किया, चैलेंजेस को फेस किया, और जितनी ब्लडशेड देखा, और अपनी जानें गंवा दी, अपने अजीज़ों को गंवा दिया, अपने होमलैंड को छोड़ के. मतलब बहुत सी चीज़ें उनकी थी कि कहना बड़ा आसान है कि इट्स टू ईजी टू मूव फ्रॉम वन प्लेस टू अनदर, बट द होल प्रोसेस टेक्स अ लॉन्ग टाइम पीरियड, and it has a traumatic effect on many people. The gift of independence in 1947 came in like a shroud of death for the vulnerable, weak and infirm. देखिए अब ये एक line again, there is a big satire on 1947 partition by Aisha Jalal कि जो भी 1947 की इंडिपेंडेंस में है उनको पहला गिफ्ट क्या मिला सिटीजनशिप का अपनी, वो क्या है, उनको डेथ मिली है, उनको कफन पहनने पड़े हैं बिकॉज दे वर वर्नरेबल, नो वन वाज देयर टू प्रोटेक्ट देम। तो एक नई स्टेट में आए जहाँ वो बड़ी खुशियों के साथ आए थे। एट वन पॉइंट आयशा जलाल आल्सो सेज दैट independence is celebration but partition is mourning because lot of people lost many things, many precious things. Women from the lower social classes were the primary victims of the horrific carnage in which Muslims, Hindus and Sikh men fell upon them as well as on each other with staggering brutality and murderous hatred. Now if we talk about women are always under the subjugation of men, but in case of 1947 Aisha Jalal says women suffers more than men, women and children suffer more than men, but women are on the high point of suffering because of their gender. They were already subjugated because they were second, and after that when this partition happened, not only Muslim but also Sikhs and Hindu took advantage of them as an object. तो आप देख सकते हैं कि अगर हम उसको अपने टाइटल को याद रखें और साथ साथ अगर हम अपने कोर्स टाइटल को याद रखें, our course title is women's writing. So if we see or look at the point of Aisha Jalal view on women and feminism, we will see that how women suffered throughout the history, how women give so many sacrifices for this state, but in our further discussion we will see how women were treated and how they were given their rights. It's an ironical statement, they were given their rights although they were not given any right. Okay, stumbling fearfully across the newly demarcated frontiers of Pakistan and India, hundreds of thousands of helpless women who had yet to make an entry into the nationalist discourse were given their first taste of citizenship rights in the form of gang rapes, physical mutilation, abduction and death. Now she is pinpointing the idea that women want their citizenship, they want their right, they want an independent state, but as a result, after partition they got rapes, they got physical mutilation and as well as death. So here is a picture which is depicting the time period of 1947 when everyone was moving towards new nation state and life with freedom, but the consequences are miserable. Saadat Manto captured the psychological terror of partition and the serial brutalization of women in a number of heartbreaking and chilling tales. He was roundly attacked for sensationalizing a human tragedy and then prosecuted by the custodians of public morality for writing obscene and anti-state stories about abducted women. Attitudes were not very different across the border. Saadat Manto is a Pakistani Urdu short story writer. He wrote about the woman abduction, woman rape, and he was not appreciated for writing all such stuff because he was just portraying the true picture at that time what the women were going through. If you remember the Ice Candy Man by Pepsi Sidhwa, you will see the character of Aya, how she also suffered because across the border the scenes were same. Although she was a Hindu, but she also suffered a lot because of the partition. And if you see in the case of Muslim women, Saadat Manto has brilliantly presented the picture at the time when the women were struggling and they were happy for the new homeland, but they were not aware of the bad consequences they faced in the form of rape. The shattering experience of partition only hardened Muslims men, cutting across class divisions in their opinion that the woman unprotected and exceeding the limits of domestic sphere was a source of immorality, irreligiosity, and social degradation. The reconfiguration of state and civil society, public and private space, as well as the individual and the community, was sought to be based on the silencing and erasing the suffering of those women who bespoke of the inhumanity that had greeted the arrival of the independence in South Asia. These women from the lower social strata remained at the margin, if at all within sight of a debate on citizenship rights, which claimed to extend quality and dignity of life to individual members of the national community. But women के साथ क्या हुआ जब उनको एक नेशन स्टेट मिल गई, नेशन स्टेट में सिटीजनशिप भी चाहिए ना। अगर आप 1920 में देखें जब वुमेन को राइट मिला है वोट का, फर्स्ट वेव ऑफ वुमेन किसके बारे में बात करती है? टॉक अबाउट द राइट ऑफ वुमेन फॉर द वोट. सफरेज वुमेन इज ऑल अबाउट द राइट्स ऑफ वुमेन टू कास्ट अ वोट. बट that moment shows us that why they demanded the right of vote, because they want to be the citizen of a particular country. अगर आपको right नहीं दिया जाता वोट करने का तो आप citizen भी consider नहीं करवाए जाते. If you are not a citizen of any country, then where you stand? Okay. तो इधर भी यही हुआ जब वुमेन ने कहा कि उनको राइट्स मिले सोसाइटी में, सिविल सोसाइटी में, पब्लिक और प्राइवेट स्पेयर में, दोनों में उनको जो है वो एक प्लेस मिलनी चाहिए, बट उनको साइलेंस करवा दिया गया बिकॉज दे हैड गिवन टू मैनी सेक्रीफाइस, दे मस्ट बी गिवन अ हाई प्लेस इन द सोसाइटी. बट क्या किया गया? साइलेंसिंग करवा दी गई, उनको स्पॉल्टन बना दिया गया. और सिटीजनशिप के राइट जो थे वो सिर्फ किसने ले लिए? मैंने ले लिए, जो कि हमेशा से होता आ रहा है. या आप elite class के पास चले गए. Okay. The women's question was salient in post-colonial debates on citizenship rights, precisely because nationalist discourses Muslims in India have failed to address or less resolve their vital issue. Post-colonial जो है ना डिबेट citizenship right पे, क्योंकि post-colonial आइडेंटिटी में बात करता है, लॉस ऑफ आइडेंटिटी हुई, उसके बाद आपने अगर कैसे अपनी आइडेंटिटी को जो है वो बहाल कराना, रिस्टोर करवाना है, और जो है ना सिटीजनशिप राइट्स कि क्या है, राइट्स वो मिल रहे हैं नहीं मिल रहे, उस पर सारी डिबेट होती है. तो मुस्लिम्स एंड हिंदूज वर कुड नॉट एड्रेस दैट इशूज़. तो क्या हुआ, वो वाइटल इशू अभी तक अनरिजोल्व रहा कि वुमेन की कहाँ प्लेस है, वेयर अ वुमन स्टैंड. तो men who had written about women since the late 19th century had hardly even thought of their gender counterpart, an individual with sensibilities of their own. Now you can see that very patriarchal standard that they don't even consider their counterpart to be eligible for doing something. They say that they are not eligible for this, they don't have senses, they are not sensible, they are irrational, so that's why they could not do anything for the state or anything for the for any even in literature you can see that time and again many scholars have been rejected on the basis of their gender. आप अगर अपनी पिछली स्टोरी याद करें woman and point zero, you would see that her Nawal al-Sadwi's work was banned just because of highlighting the trauma of a girl. Like the opposite member in Bengal, Muslim Ashraf class in the northern India had merely sought to reform the woman of their own family. The predicament of the vast majority of women from the lower classes were relevant only a negative point of the reference against which the standards of respectability were to be established for women for the Ashraf classes. Respectability किसके लिए रहेगी, सिर्फ just only for Ashraf classes, mean to say elite class. Depraved and uncouched beyond redemption, these women as prostitute, not women as ornament, adorning male, amusing on zan और औरत. सो एंड पे फिर वुमेन की एक पोजीशन क्या रह जाती है कि वो जस्ट एज एन ऑब्जेक्ट यूज होती हैं, उनकी कोई सेक्रीफाइसेस, उनकी जो एबिलिटीज है उनको निगेट किया जाता है, और उसके बाद वो क्या कहलाई जाती है, जस्ट फॉर दे आर फॉर द सेक ऑफ ऑर्नामेंट, और दे आर जस्ट फॉर द सेक ऑफ डोमेस्टिक वर्क. If the discourse of the Ashraf excluded the vast majority of women from their purview, Muslim divines like Hussain Ahmad Madni has dropped women altogether while giving a philological meaning to the word को. अच्छा जी, वुमेन को एलीट क्लास में तो अपने दायरे से बाहर निकाल ही दिया, ठीक है ना. हम कहते हैं ना वुमेन आर डबली मार्जिनलाइज. फ्राफ क्लास में तो मेजोरिटी वुमेन को एक्सक्लूड ही कर दी कि वुमेन आर नॉट गोइंग टू पार्टिसिपेट विद आवर पॉलिटिकल व्यूज़. और इधर से मुस्लिम डिवाइंस मुल्लाज ने भी अपना काम किरदार अदा किया कि जो कौम है वो जस्ट किस लिए है, वो सिर्फ मेल ही बना सकते हैं. द मेल कैन मेक अ नेशन, नॉट द women. This is why it was all more unfortunate that even when educated women tried making their presence felt in public arena, they did so as symbol for their community rather than as representative of their gender. तो फिर क्या हुआ, उनको अपनी कम्युनिटी का बस एक नाम दे दिया कि आप कम्युनिटी के बेस पे करेंगे, आपकी कम्युनिटी है. उनके जेंडर को कभी भी अप्रिशिएट नहीं किया गया, ठीक है. कि वो एजुकेटेड थी, वो चाहती थी कि हम काम करें, हम कुछ करें, बट दे वर ऑलवेज rejected. The fracturing of gender by class more than anything else had made certain that women from the subordinate class would find no place in the national question and by implication in the debate on the equal citizenship right. इस चीज़ ने शो करवाया है कि वुमेन को तो कुछ समझा ही नहीं जा रहा ना, वो लोअर स्टेटस से बिलोंग करती है, उसका जेंडर सेकंड है, तो नेशनल क्वेश्चन में उसकी तो किसी ने बात ही नहीं की कि उसने क्या करना है, इसको कौन, इसकी कोई इम्प्लीकेशन ही नहीं देगी. जस्ट फोकस बात ऑन मेल की पॉलिटिक्स है, मेल का ही घर में जो है पब्लिक स्फेयर है, प्राइवेट स्फेयर है, उसमें ही मेल की डोमिनेंसी है. वेयर द वुमन स्टैंड, नोबडी टॉक्स अबाउट इट. द क्रिएशन ऑफ द truncated Pakistan was itself an advertisement of the problem of conferring equal citizenship rights on those excluded from the narratives of Muslims nation. तो पाकिस्तान की क्रिएशन भी तो इस चीज़ को एड्रेस कर सकती है ना कि पाकिस्तान बनाया क्यों, वी गॉट इंडिपेंडेंस from Hindus because they were in majority in subcontinent, and Kayas want Muslims to be separated because they don't want Hindu to rule them. Okay, और majority की बेस पे ही हमें जो है वो सेपरेट लैंड लेना पड़ा कि हम majority में हम अपना ही आइन रखेंगे, अपनी हमारा कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन होगा, हमारा अपना जो है. और कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में तो ये होता है ना कि जो मुस्लिम कंट्री में मुस्लिम ही रूल करेगा, इस्लामिक स्टेट पे तो हम हिंदू के अंडर तो नहीं रह सकते थे. और क्लियरली Kayas have given us two nation theory that we cannot live with Indians, और इस्लाम हमारी बेस थी. तो उसके बाद आयशा जलाल कहती है कि ठीक है, अगर ऐसा सब कुछ था, वाई वुमेन आर स्टिल फेसिंग subjugation and are not independent from the patriarchal shackles after the partition of 1947. She raises this question. Following Indian in taking its cues from the colonial states which had restricted the meaning of the Sharia to personal laws, the managers of Pakistan tried establishing their Islamic bona fides by considering new social legislation on behalf of women that dealing only with in inheritance, marriage, divorce, and the guardian of children. उसने कहा कि जो इंडिया थे उन्होंने तो अपना स्टांस ये ले लिया ना कि हम हमारी अब स्टेट है तो हमारे अपने अपने पर्सनल लॉज है, जो जैसे करना चाहता करता है। लेकिन मुस्लिम जो ऑन द अदर हैंड अगर मुस्लिम क्लास को देखें तो उन्होंने शरीयत को किस तरह लिया, शरीयत कहाँ तक देखी, सिर्फ इनहेरिटेंस तक, मैरिज तक, डिवोर्स तक और गार्डियनशिप ऑफ चिल्ड्रन, इसके अलावा वुमेन का कोई राइट ही नहीं है। Time and again you see that how many scholar, many feministic writer are talking about this मार्जिनल पोजीशन ऑफ वुमेन। अगर आप मैरी वॉन्स्टनक्रॉफ्ट का आइडिया देखें, सिमन डी बूवो को देख लें, फरुखजाद का आइडिया देखें, ऑल ऑफ दीज वुमेन वन वे और द अदर टॉकिंग अबाउट द प्लेस ऑफ वुमेन इन द सोसाइटी। दे डोंट वांट वुमेन टू बी स्टे in the four walls of a house because they have the ability to stand with their counterparts, but no one appreciates this because patriarchy, it's a alarming situation for patriarchy that if women will come to the forefront, it will shake their foundation, it will not let them to be as they are. Okay, if you're designing the destiny of woman, it's man who is selecting the destiny of woman. She herself has not given any right to think, not let them to be as they are. Okay, if you're designing the destiny of woman, it's man who is selecting the destiny of woman. She herself has not given any right to think of her identity of. Instead of establishing the basis for a civil society on the principle of equality, solidarity, and freedom, Islamic Pakistan, quite as much as secular Indian, focused on the personal laws of religious communities, believing them to be a sufficient accommodation of cultural differences. Okay, in the case of women, the focus on their community-defined rights in the marriage, property, and divorce has discarded attention from their rights as public citizens. ठीक है, सिर्फ फोकस कहाँ रह गया, डिवोर्स के राइट्स पे, प्रॉपर्टी के राइट्स पे, मैरिज के, बच्चों का संभालना, लेकिन कोई उनके रियल राइट्स पे आया ही नहीं कि उनको सिटीजनशिप राइट भी तो चाहिए। वो रह रही है एक इंडिपेंडेंट स्टेट में। वाई दे आर नॉट गेटिंग द इंडिपेंडेंट आइडेंटिटी? This has served to perpetuate the subjugation of women, particularly those belonging to the lower strata. Always the lower strata women suffered a lot more than the elite class. So, concluding our discussion, I have some key points. We will see that religion was used to justify violence. Women became target of severe brutality. Physical independence was a new struggle after state independence. अब वो फिजिकली भी इंडिपेंडेंट होना चाहती थी वुमेन। देखिए ना कि स्टेट इंडिपेंडेंस तो हो गई है, बट उसके बाद फिजिकल इंडिपेंडेंस कहाँ है, किसी ने नहीं दी, बिकॉज उसके जेंडर को ही कंसीडर नहीं किया जा रहा। जस्ट शी इज कन्फाइंड टू द रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी ऑफ मदरहुड और वाइफ और she's just like a servant. She women became subaltern, having no voice and rights. उनको तो चुप ही करवा देंगे ना, आपने पढ़ा भी है पिछले, silencing their voices. Who gave the woman who gave sacrifices, gave their honor, gave their children, they were made silent. Okay. Mental decolonization. Although we have got independence after 1947, Asha Jalal says we are still under the influence of other colonized nation. Okay, colonizers nation. Okay, colonizer कैसे subjugate करते हैं women, अभी तक हमें चलता आ रहा है। ठीक है। Ideas of politics was gender oriented. पॉलिटिक्स में क्या है, जस्ट मेल आर टेकिंग द डिसीजन, वुमेन आर आउट ऑफ द स्फेयर, दे आर आउट ऑफ द पब्लिक स्फेयर। ठीक है, तो जेंडर ओरिएंटेड क्या हो गई चीज़ की, जेंडर ही बेस्ड जेंडर ओरिएंटेड है ना, ये तो न्यूट्रल तो नहीं है। जेंडर में आ गया कि मेल डिसाइड करेंगे, शराफिया क्लास में शराफिया क्लास की जो मेल है वो डिसाइड कर रहे थे। उधर से हमारे जो अगर हम देखें तो मुस्लिम डिवाइंस में से मुल्लाज डिफाइन करेंगे कि वुमेन कैसे रहेंगी, बट नो वन इज गिविंग द राइट और एक्चुअल राइट टू वुमेन. Asha Jalal views partition as an unhealing wound. She says that it is still, and although we have more than 70 years of independence, she says that this wound is still unhealed. Drugs for which we have got partition, still struggling to maintain the very essence. ठीक है, जिसके लिए हमने पाकिस्तान को लिया है वो एसेंस अभी तक मिसिंग है. But I have a point in my mind that although she is criticizing the partition and she is saying that it's not good, it was not good to have a partition, we must live together, उसकी अपना व्यू है. ठीक है, everyone is allowed to give his or her view, but according to my point of view, Pakistan would be different if Qaid lived more, because Qaid was died after the one month of independence. He has the strategies to follow to lead the nation. He was seeing the future. He don't look back at the past. He was a person who sees the present as well as the future. But unfortunately we lost our great leader. That's why there are so many things that other people have been given the chance to talk about, that this partition was not a good thing. But according to my point of view, if you didn't get that partition, we were under the slavery of Hindus. So it's so better in person. It's priceless to be independent. Okay, so Skies had taken a very good decision, but unfortunately many people could not understand his vision. That's why they criticizing or narrow down his views. we have analyzed this topic from the feministic perspective. We see there is another debate. हम दो तरीके से देख सकते हैं. इस पोस्ट colonial पे है पाकिस्तानी डिबेट के लिहाज से कर सकते हैं कि पाकिस्तानी हिस्ट्री क्या थी, because she is an historian. She relates the incident of history with this particular event. But we have seen it from the perspective of feminism, that she is a female writer, sorry, that how she deals or how she tackles the issue of female. She is highlighting that women suffers too much brutality. If partition didn't happen, so there must be better condition, but we don't agree with it. Although women suffered a lot, but still they are making their way to the progress. They are getting success. Although it was a part of their journey. When you have to get something bigger, you have to give sacrifices. So women give sacrifices for this land. And for Aisha Jalal's point of view, you can also draw your own conclusion as well. There is no restriction that if she is saying that it's not good, partition was not good, and you must agree with that. No, you are not going to agree with that. You can give your arguments, and you can support your arguments by logic. Okay. So it was all about today's lecture. I hope you will have a good understanding of it. Before winding up this lecture, I would say to you people that just focus on one thing, that we got this land, we got this homeland by many sacrifices. We must protect it. We must work hard for it, because Kayas has too many expectations from students that they are the bright future of the country. But the students of today's generation are not, fulfilling that vision that Kayat gave to us. So I personally advise all of you to be loyal with yourself, to be loyal with your country. Pakistan Zindabad.